Right, hi guys, welcome to a brand new Cruel Wall. A lot of you guys have been suggesting to do something involving the teams and scoring the teams. Obviously we're 5 races into the season now, so it wouldn't be fair to just start it from Spain. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do it quarterly. So we've had 5 rounds of the 20-round season, so I'm going to score them out based on the first 5 rounds, then the next 5 rounds, and then obviously 15 races. The total will be scored. I won't do the scoring for that. I'll just add up the ones that I've scored them and then plus their constructors' points at the end. So obviously I know people are going to be saying, well, hang on a minute, if Sauber have only scored 4 points all year, then they're definitely not going to win, because obviously Mercedes will probably score about 300. How I'm going to do it is, I'm going to score the teams out of 100 points. So that'll make it a bit easier, because there's not going to be really any teams getting 100 points anyway. But that's how I'm going to do the scoring. I'm not going to have any control over the ending, so the Constructors' Championship could change the overall winner on this wall, because I know some people have been saying on the drivers' Cruel Wall that I'm biased towards some drivers and being unfair to others. I'm sure you know who those drivers are. If you don't, then where have you been? So yeah, that's why I'm going to play it so the constructors can play a part in the overall winner. Just so it's not as biased, I suppose. I'm trying to be fair, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It might not work, but I don't know. But let's give it a go anyway. Thanks for the suggestions for going ahead and wanting you to see something else to do with the Cruel Wall, to see a Team Cruel Wall. I'm looking forward to doing it, so let's crack on. So, Mercedes. Well, you'd be surprised to know, or not if you've been watching the races, that they haven't had a 1-2 finish yet in the first 5 rounds, which is unheard of for Mercedes based on their dominance the last few years. But the way Ferrari have come at them this year, it's took them a bit by surprise. So, Mercedes have done a solid job. The development, they're still the best car on the grid, I feel personally. Bottas has taken his time to get used to the car. Hamilton's just kicked off where he left off, basically. Although this year, personally speaking, I still think Mercedes will win it. I still think Hamilton will win the championship, but it's so good to see Ferrari up there battling with them, and a different car to be battling with them. And especially now that it seems to be coming down to strategy is what's playing a massive part in who's winning the races. You've only got to look at Bahrain. It was a result of Ferrari having the better strategy that Vettel won. Same at Australia for why Vettel won, and then this weekend at Spain, it's because Mercedes had the better strategy. So it's looking really, really interesting for how the season is going to play out, and the teams having a lot more involvement of who's going to win. So yeah, Mercedes have done a solid job this year. You can't really expect anything else from him. Bottas, as I've said, is taking his time to get used to the car. He had an engine or turbo problem or whatever it was at Spain, given his first DNF of the year. But he is a race winner now. Superb drive at Russia, off the line from 3rd, got him the win. So, Mercedes kicking off where they left off last year, in some respects, yes, and in other respects now they've got challenge from another team. They're not struggling to cope with that pressure, they're doing very well with it. But, it can't be a perfect 100, because they have made mistakes with pit stops, double stacking and things like that at Bahrain. And also in terms of the fact that, they aren't the dominant. They are the dominant team. Don't get me wrong, they are still the best car on the grid, but they have got close competition now, and we've not seen that for a few years. So although good for the sport, not good for Mercedes. So I'm going to score Mercedes out of a possible 100, 75 points for their first 5 races of the season. I think that's a solid effort, a solid result, but they don't deserve a perfect 100. They've had one reliability failure, and they've also had problems with strategies and things like that. So that's the first one. Second one is Ferrari, based on the 2017 constructors. This is based on last year's. So Ferrari, only just behind Mercedes in the constructors, snapping at the heels at the moment. Vettel clearly the dominant driver in that team, like Hamilton is at Mercedes. Doing wonders with the car, doing a really solid job. Again, Ferrari, they've made a massive improvement from last year. From not winning any races last year to already winning 2 is a big step forward, and they're there. They are on the back of Mercedes, and they're right up against them, and causing Mercedes a bit of trouble. So that's nice to see. Not just for Ferrari fans, but also for the sport. We need some competition at last. Raikkonen, he's been struggling. He has been struggling. He's not shown the pace of what Vettel's been getting out of that car. So Raikkonen really needs to book his ideas up. He's had 1 podium so far this year. It was nice what happened at Spain in terms of Ferrari getting the little lad down and things, but at the end of the day, that doesn't help with results and Constructors' Championships. But for Ferrari, a massive, massive improvement for them based on last year, and a massive change in attitude to Vettel as well. I think that's just because he's happier, because he's in a more dominant car, but last year we were hearing him whinge and complain and moan a lot. Telling Charlie Whiting to fuck off and things like that, but this year he's come in calm, relaxed. He's got a really good rivalry with Hamilton at the moment. How long that lasts, we don't know. Something might kick off, but at the minute it's a nice mutual rivalry, and I'm really enjoying the battle. So for Ferrari, they've done a solid job, massive improvement on last year. Raikkonen needs to book his ideas up. They need to get him somehow to make him more comfortable in the car, happier in the car, or just tell him to get on with it. So, Ferrari, solid job this year. Mercedes scored 75. Ferrari can score 85 because I believe they've done, obviously, a better job of improving their car. And done a great job in general, really. Really chuffed that Ferrari are up there. So, without much more hassle, we'll go to Red Bull. Red Bull Racing. 3rd in the Constructors at the moment. But where have they been, really? They're miles off the pace. Miles off the pace in terms of Mercedes and Ferrari. I know they were 1.6 off the first race at Australia, off the Mercedes. Then I think they got it down to 1.1, then 9/10 of a second, something like that. Then only 7/10 at Russia, which is really good improvement. And then in Spain, they dropped off again. Now, according to what I've read, Red Bull deliberately turned their engine down, or told Ricciardo, the sole remaining Red Bull, to turn his engine down because they weren't under pressure for the podium and they just wanted to get the points. So if that is true, then that means we didn't see their true pace at Spain, although they nearly got lapped, which makes me think that perhaps that's not all true, because even if you wanted to turn your engine down and save your power and your performance, you still wouldn't want to be close to being lapped, would you? Especially when you're in a podium position. So, overall, Red Bull have been pretty steady, I would say. We had the reliability for Ricciardo at Russia. We had Verstappen with a brake failure at Bahrain. No reliabilities in terms of engine at the moment, it doesn't seem. But, you know, the Renault engine seems fairly sorted. I know it's not a Renault engine, but it is. But yeah, Red Bull, been a bit disappointing this year for me. They're only picking up the podiums when Ferrari or Mercedes have issues. So, they're not there yet. I hope they can continue to improve. Whether they'll get on the back of Mercedes and Ferrari at the end of the year, I very much doubt it. I hope they get closer, though, to maybe jump into podium positions and fight with podiums. But fighting for overall race wins, it seems like a bit of a dream away at the minute. So for Red Bull, we'll see. I'm unreserved at the moment. The drivers they've got are great. I've got nothing to complain with for the drivers. Although Verstappen has been outshowing Ricciardo quite a lot in terms of overall race pace. It just seems that Verstappen's having more of the bad luck than Ricciardo is, so Ricciardo's able to bring the points home. But very good result for Red Bull so far this year. But they're a lonely 3rd in the Constructors. They need to really get on with it a bit. So for Red Bull Racing, I'm going to score you 50 points. Could be doing better, is all I'm going to say. Next up, Force India. My favourite team, and I don't beat around the bush when I say that, my favourite team, I've loved them since they came into the sport, and they have done amazingly well this year. Only team that's throughout the field, the only team to have a double points finish in every race so far this year. Ocon had 3 10th places in the first 3 rounds and then went up to a 7th and then a 5th. So, solid effort by Ocon on his debut for Force India. I know he did half a season with Manor last year, which has sort of really got him up to speed a bit. But, you know, he's a decent driver. He deserved that seat and he's proving that he did deserve it. I know a lot of people were saying, well, why didn't you get Verline in there and things like that, you know. But Ocon's proving why he deserved the seat. Perez, as always, Mr. Consistency. I think that's now 15 races consecutively that he has scored points, and obviously he was with Force India last year. So it just shows you how solid Force India are doing as a team of late. Yes, it's gone pink. I'm not going to hold that against them. I personally love it. It's nice to see a different colour on the grid, and you can easily spot them. I know we've had issues with numbers. They've been querying about that after Spain. They've got a 25,000 suspended fine because the numbers weren't visible enough because they put pink on pink, which was a bit daft. But yeah, Force India done a solid job this year. Only 21 points behind Red Bull in the constructors at the moment. And like I say, if they carry on scoring points like they are doing, even with just one car, because eventually the luck will run out, they'll have a reliability, one will have a crash. But if they can still get one finishing in top 5, it's a solid effort for them. This time last year they had 16 points compared to this year of 53. So that's a massive improvement. Force India have normally had a slow start to a season and then built up to it, whereas this year they've come straight in, got on with it, scored the points, took the points early, and I just hope now that they don't peter off towards the end, and I hope they keep this consistency going, and they could challenge for 3rd in the constructors, which I'm really chuffed about. So, I know I'm going to say I did score biased scores, but for Force India, I can't say a bad word about them. Everything's been perfect. You know, you can't argue with that. Everything has been sublime by them. Points every race for both cars, no reliability issues, you know. What more can you say? That's a perfect 100 points for Force India. And, you know, if you want to comment below and see if you disagree, but that to me, for a team that's not got the budget of these big teams ahead of them, and they're doing things that the other teams haven't done. You know, no reliability issues, the only team to score points in every race so far with both cars. It will come to an end, yes, but for them to be the only team to get to round 5 with double point scoring cars is a sublime effort. So, next up we have Toro Rosso. What can we say about Toro Rosso? Started off strongly, really well. A double points finish of 8th and 9th for the Toro Rossos at Australia. And then since then, Kvyat just went waywards. He was running in the points at China before a mechanical problem saw him out of the race, which was unfortunate. And then since then he's just been struggling. They had a double points finish again at Spain, which is their first one since the first round at Australia. Sainz has been doing a solid job, but the car did well. It looks promising, and then it just sort of had a bit of a peter off, and then it's coming back again. So it'll be interesting to see how they keep this momentum up from double point score again, whether they'll drop back down for Monaco or whether they'll stay there and get the cars back into the points regularly again. They're currently on 21 points, a whole 32 points behind Force India, and not too far away from, they're only 3 points ahead of Williams. So it's looking tight, that battle. But Toro Rosso, solid enough job. The drivers, Kvyat I didn't think should have been there this year personally. He's not really proved his worth. I know he's had a couple of point scoring positions, but Sainz has been scoring them more often. But I think Pierre Gasly should have had that seat personally. So an incorrect driver's choice for me based on that. Sainz, top lad, top driver, deserves a better drive. But there's no room at Red Bull. So where he'll go in the future, I don't know. But overall for Toro Rosso, it's been a good start to the year for them. But I think it could have been better had they had someone else in the car other than Kvyat. So for that, I'm going to score them 50 points. I'm going to score them 50. I'm going to score the 50 based on what Sainz has done. Because like I said, I don't believe that that Kvyat should be there. But, you know, we'll wait and see. Like I said, this is why we're comparing them halfway through the year to see if they improve. Williams next. Right, Williams. I've got no sympathy for him whatsoever. You want to take £75 million for a driver who clearly isn't scoring points, isn't clearly good enough to be in the sport, you're going to suffer in the long run when the constructors' money doesn't come in because you're dropping positions hand over fist. You're down in sixth at the moment, innit? And Renault are snapping at your heels. And they've only got one driver that's scoring points as well. It's a bit of a piss poor positioning for Williams. Yes, you signed Stroll because of the money, but what is it getting you in return? Absolutely nothing. You're just getting accident damage, and you're just getting a lot of hassle and a lot of people slating you for doing it, and a lot of people slating Stroll. Stroll's not ready for Formula 1. He isn't. That's the end of it. Sympathy towards Williams, like I said, I've got none. I've got no sympathy towards Williams. They've caused this themselves. And regardless, you know, Stroll was going there anyway. Stroll was going there to Williams, regardless whether Bottas went to Mercedes or not. So it isn't, if you know, he was signed, sealed, and delivered. And I think Williams are regretting it now, but it's a bit too late. And this is the problem with Williams, and then obviously up and coming Renault, that if their lead driver Felipe Massa has an issue like he did at Spain, then Williams aren't scoring points. And it's as simple as that. And it's so garbage. It's so garbage. It's ridiculous to think that once one car has had an issue, that's it. Neither car's scoring points. You know, you may as well just run with one car and just see where it gets you. It's diabolical. So for Williams, I've got no sympathy for you. You'll end up finding out that £75 million doesn't go a long way when you're repairing the car a lot. And when you're dropping your positions down in the Constructors' Championship because you're not bringing the points in. You know, you've got one car out there doing the job and the other car isn't. Okay, I'll admit, the car doesn't look like it deserves to be on the podium like in previous years we've seen by Williams. But it is a regular top 10 scoring car. It can do it, but you've got a driver that's not capable of doing it. So for that, Williams, I'm going to score you just 25 points. That's all you're going to get, because I've got no sympathy for you. You've brought it on yourself. And then I come to Renault in 7th, and it's exactly the same situation. You've got Hülkenberg there, qualifying in the top 10 more often than not, or just outside. You've got him scoring points regularly now. He had a 6th place finish at Spain, and where was his teammate? Down in 15th, and never once got into the points. Never once got into the top 10, regardless of whether he was on a different strategy or not and moved up and things. No, he never got there. And it's been the same case all the way through. Jolyon Palmer, you do not deserve to be in Formula 1, my friend. You're just absolutely garbage. And for Renault to say that it's not about money why they took Palmer, what was it about then, Renault? What was it about? Because it clearly wasn't about talent. You dropped Kevin Magnussen. I know Magnussen's had a difficult year in Haas this year, but he's done a lot better than what Jolyon Palmer has. At least he scored points. You know, it's ridiculous. So again, Renault, I've got no sympathy for you. Hülkenberg's doing a solid job for that team, bringing the points in, getting the results in qualifying. It looks like race pace is still a bit tricky for him. Hülkenberg more often than not drops positions after his qualifying grid spot during the race because of tyre wear and things like that. But the car is 10 times better than what it was last year, that Renault, and Hülkenberg's proving that. But for you to have, again, Palmer that's just doing shit all, pissing around at back of grid, and then for you to accept that he's allowed to slag you off on telly. Everything conspired against me in qualifying again, lads. Oh, God. Race result. It were down to strategy. And you're just like, why are you allowing this? Seriously, Renault, you need to get someone else in. There's a lot better drivers out there that deserve a Formula 1 seat than Jolyon Palmer. So, and if it's not linked with money to him, then you can easily just chuck him out, can't you? So, Renault, I've got no sympathy for you. Based on what Hülkenberg's done this year, I think it's fantastic. But based on what Palmer's done this year, and the fact that you're ruining, again, your own Constructors' Championship because you've got that idiot racing for you, Williams got 25. I can only give you 15, Renault. I can only give you 15, and that is solely based on what Hülkenberg has done for you. Because Palmer's done nothing, and you keep defending him. And you keep allowing Palmer to slag you off as a team because he's shit. So, book your ideas up, Renault. You'll get more points halfway through if you chuck him out and get rid of Palmer. And it's as simple as that. So, we go then to Haas Formula 1 team. Now, a bit of a strange one for Haas. They look promising. Grosjean did really well at Australia, qualified in the top 10, was running 6th, no problem, before he had an engine failure, and you thought, oh, that's a shame, but at least the car's there. At least they've got the good car again. And then he sort of just petered off, really. They can't get both cars up there. They've always got one at the front, one at the back. They keep having brake issues, like what they had for the most part of last year, which is unusual. They keep changing brake supplies and seem to be getting nowhere with it. Magnussen this year's come in, he has scored points for Haas, but I was expecting a double points finish by now for Haas, I must be honest, but it didn't happen. Came close in Spain before Magnussen had that crash with Kvyat and got himself a puncture. But yeah, Haas have been there or thereabouts, but they've not really been setting the world alight, and that's a shame. Like I say, you've got one car mid-grid to sort of like 14th to around 8th, that sort of place, and then you've got the other one right at the back, doing nothing. And more often than not, that's been Grosjean, which is a strange one, really. So Haas, I really hope you get more consistent. The car seems capable of points. I just think you're having setup issues and things like that. And it's just a bit bizarre. So, you know, I look forward to seeing in the second half Haas hopefully improving and scoring more points. But until then, I can only really give them 30 points based on what they've done so far. They've done a decent enough job, but I don't know. It's a tricky one to say with Haas. The drivers they've got are good. Magnussen has struggled, I'll admit that. I like Magnussen, but he has struggled. But so has Grosjean. And that makes me think that there's something more, maybe not agreeing with the drivers in terms of the car's performance and setup and things. Maybe they're going the wrong direction with development. Because Grosjean was a lightning kid last year in that Haas and did wonders for it. So for them both to be struggling makes me think there's something more to it. But, you know, I look forward to hopefully seeing you improve in the future. So next up, Sauber, who scored points in Spain. Let's not forget, Pascal Wehrlein crossed the line 7th, but finished P8 due to a 5-second time penalty. Can't take that away from him, though. What an amazing race, an amazing strategy by Sauber. And also not taking away from the fact that Marcus Ericsson finished P11, just missing out on points, and there wasn't that many retirements. Okay, there was 3 big names that went out that race, which promoted them into the point. Okay, I accept that, that's fair enough. But to finish ahead of both Williams, obviously Renault, both Hondas, you know, things like that, it was a good effort, it was a good race by them, a Haas as well. So, you know, they've done a really, really solid job to get those points, which elevates them above McLaren now, fully, rather than just on race position. It elevates them by 4 points, which is a big boost for them. The overall car performance, of course, it's last year's Ferrari engine. We weren't expecting anything magical from them, of course we weren't. But, you know, 4 points for them is decent. The car has always looked, on occasions, as if it could potentially break into the top 10. We had Giovinazzi finish P12 in Australia on his first race. We had Wehrlein on his return at Bahrain finish P11. So it's always been there or thereabouts. But it does take a couple of retirements for him to get up there. So Sauber, superb job. Of course we know the car isn't as great as the others. It is the slowest car on the grid. Yes, it is slower than the Honda. I know that's hard to believe. But yeah, so Sauber, a great job by you guys. I hope to see you score more points in the future, and I hope the development comes. I hope some development comes. I know they've had some floor development for Spain, so I hope some more comes in the near future to able to elevate you so you're racing a bit better. You know, they had a very lonely race in Russia because they were so far off the pace. You know, they were like where Manor... Well, Manor wasn't even like that last year, but, you know, they are the rear gunners now, unfortunately. But their deal with Honda for next year, I can't blame them. I know people are calling them stupid, but let's face it. Sauber are struggling for money. That's the top and bottom of it. So for them to get a good result here, 4 points, that's decent, you know. That'll hopefully keep them ahead of McLaren Honda. We'll see. But for next year and the year after... the Liberty Media are hoping to reduce the costs, and the FIA are hoping to reduce the costs in Formula 1 by 2020. So by Sauber getting the Honda deal, I feel that Honda have just chucked it at them and gone, look, you can have our engines for free. Just bear with us. You know, and of course Sauber are going to go, well, that's going to help us in the back pocket. We're at the back of the grid anyway. We've got nothing to lose. If they put an engine in next year, Honda, and they've nailed it, then Sauber are going to be laughing. But if they don't, they just stay at the back of the grid. And that's not an issue for me. I appreciate that. Then when they get to 2020, they can start looking into it a bit more and a bit more detail. and see where they want to go. So it's just survival for Sauber as to why they've chosen the Honda, and I can't fault them. I think it's a great move, and it's great to see that that team will stay on the grid a bit longer. So based on your performance in the first quarter, of course you had a superb race in Spain, but your car isn't the best. So for that I'm going to score you 40 points. But you have done a very good job, Sauber. Very good job indeed. And then we come to McLaren Honda, and they have done diabolical. We had Van Dorn finish a race at last in Russia, and we finally had a race completion by Alonso after, you know, they had 3 DNFs each, 1 DNS each, and Alonso breaking into Q3 for the first time and 7th on the grid, which is their best ever qualifying since since Honda have been in it, I heard. I'm not sure how true that is, but since Honda have been back in 2015, P7 on the grid is their best result. So they've done something right, or Alonso is anyway. Unreserved about Van Dorn at the moment. I thought he was going to come in and be a wonder kid, especially after Bahrain last year where he did that one-off race and scored Honda's first points, McLaren Honda's first points. Did a solid job. But this year has been outshone massively by Alonso. Alonso's got into Q2, Q3. Van Dorn is the only driver on the grid not to get out of Q1. The only driver not to get out of Q1 at any point this year. Even Antonio Giovinazzi did it, you know, and he only did 2 races. So it's a bit of a strange one. What is wrong with Van Dorn? Is he sort of throwing in the towel already because the car isn't good enough? Perhaps, but you shouldn't give up. We know the car's shit, Van Dorn, but you've just got to prove what you're capable of doing. Of course you can retire and things like that with the mechanical issue. It looks like it's going to happen for the most part this year for you, mate. So, Van Dorn, I really want him to book his ideas up. I'm not going to judge him as being terrible yet because I can see the car's crap, but he is being outshone by Alonso. Will Alonso return after the IndyCar? I don't think he will. If he can get a solid top 10 finish in Indy 500 on his first ever go at it, of course I think Alonso will just go, right lads, I'm off. I'm out of here. Will they keep Button on then? Maybe, maybe not. I think they will, if Button wants to do it, but if not, I reckon they'll get someone in like Nick De Vries, or maybe even Bora Giovinazzi. We'll see, but that's all to come. That's all to come. So McLaren, based on your performance so far this year, just like your constructors, it's 0. What can I score? I can't score you anything. You've been diabolical. You've been frankly diabolical. You've made it look like an absolute mockery of the team. And I can't really do anything other than that. So, there we go. Sorry it took a bit longer, but I know you wanted... I just felt I had to give an in-depth reasoning on why I'd scored the teams as I scored them. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you for round 10, or after round 10, to do the second half of the season. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I hope this is what you wanted. I know you requested something involving drivers and teams being scored, and I hope this is what you're after. Thanks a lot for the support with the Cruel Wall on the drivers and hopefully the teams, and I look forward to seeing you again soon, so much love.